The Joe Rogan Experience has been running for over 15 years, featuring thousands of guests along the way. But with that many interviews, it's no surprise that some appearances sparked major backlash from fans. In this video, we're going to be breaking down some of the most hated Joe Rogan guests and the explosive reasons why fans turned against them. Let's start with the GRE classic, a weird debate between Joe and conservative political commentator Steven Crowder that quickly spiraled into one of the most heated moments in the podcast's history.
Just because someone gets in an accident and they're high. See, because hold on, stop.
No, hold on a second. This is
you
because you just
interrupt way too much.
No,
you need to stop.
You talk
hold
in
on
paragraphs.
A second. No. I don't talk in paragraphs. I make full points.
The core issue was a mismatch in conviction. Joe is famously passionate about legalizing marijuana, something he's willing to die on a hill for, while Crowder openly admitted he didn't really care about the issue.
I probably wouldn't talk about the marijuana issue. I wouldn't care, because here's the thing, I don't care about it.
With Joe fired up and Crowder claiming to be indifferent, things quickly went off the rails.
It does matter. You said, what would you not talk about? I said, probably pot, because I don't care. Well, what do you think about it?
I said, care. That's
this
why
is
you're
what
arguing
I think
with me
about it.
it.
And your eyes
Lying.
light up, and all of a sudden,
bitch.
where ideology and worldviews
like crazy.
shouldn't be discussed.
No, you're
going to laser in like a tractor beam on the most important issue of the day that I said, I don't care.
And it didn't help that Joe was sipping whiskey and puffing on a tobacco pipe like there was no tomorrow.
I'm high as fuck right now.
The main disagreement was over whether weed is harmful or if it offers genuine health benefits.
Traffic fatalities regarding marijuana have skyrocketed.
Google that, because that's nonsense. Since marijuana legalization, highway fatalities in Colorado are at near historic lows.
You have him bringing up the source that you want to find.
Washington
Bring
Post.
up the study right there. Yeah, Washington Post. Bring up the study that we wrote. We wrote about it on our website.
Look, I don't care about your website, you fuck. Since marijuana legalization, highway fatalities in Colorado
Since you
are
called me
at near
hold on a second. Since you called me a fuck.
Things escalated when Crowder accused Joe and Jamie of ganging up on him.
Jamie keeps bringing up there's more than 100 studies that proves that cannabis cures cancer.
Exactly.
Do you deny those studies?
You come on my show. I would love to and have a discussion about it in real time. I think so. Well, last time I was on the show, you said you do the show.
Right now. You're in front of me right now. Why do I have to come on?
Because we're not having a conversation, you and I, right now.
We would definitely have a conversation for hours. Oh, that's not good to read sources?
It's not fair. It's not fair to have two people.
What's fair?
Just like before you said,
no
you think
data?
if Amy,
Should we be in a room with no internet?
You think if Amy and I ganged up on you, think you would have done well in that argument? Come on, man.
Because I want to find out how you feel, how you think. I want to see if you get defensive.
Crowder even went on to accuse Joe of bullying him.
There's no jacking back and forth.
Not at all.
You're the one jacking back and forth.
Oh, sweetie. You know that's not true.
Don't call me sweetie.
Come on, honey.
That's a bully thing.
Honey.
Come on, that's a bully thing.
If that's a bully thing, then we have a real problem in this country.
Pussy,
Come
dumb
on.
fuck,
that
honey.
That might be dumb fuck, might be bullying.
Yeah.
Sweetie is not bullying.
Which you've done.
Come on, I did it as a joke.
It was going on in Colorado.
I can't believe you called me a bully. That's such a left-wing tactic.
You are.
How dare you?
You are.
How dare you? How dare is it? How's it a bully?
You are.
What,
you do
facts?
That. No, that's not facts.
The debate sparked criticism from the audience toward both Joe and Crowder, with one commenter noting, as a huge Joe and Crowder fan, this was hard to watch. But Crowder got his fair share of hate with one reply on a Reddit thread saying Crowder was baby steps away from turning into a safe space demanding SJW when he was getting cornered in his arguments, one of the very thing he hates and fights against. Recognizing how poorly the episode had gone, Joe apologized with an Instagram post that read, I take 100% responsibility for it going off the rails, and I'm truly sorry if it upset any of you that listened to it or watched it. This post seemed to put Joe back into the good graces of his audience. Joe was then invited onto Crowder's show where they seemed to make up.
I think you're a good guy, and that's why I made that Instagram post. And I saw this back and forth both ways. People mad at you, people mad at me. It was just so stupid. And it was just, a drunken hiccup in a long conversation.
Crowder did return to the podcast one more time a year later, but that second appearance would be his last. However, things only got worse for Crowder after this, with a string of employees leaving Louder with Crowder and multiple accusations of toxic behavior behind the scenes. One of the most public departures was Dave Landau, Crowder's former co-host. When Landau spoke out on a podcast, he revealed the real reasons why he left and his experience with Crowder behind the scenes.
You officially have left Louder with Crowder.
I did. I left a while ago. Yeah. He's like, do you still want to be on Louder with Crowder? And I said, not at the moment. And he starts going off on me. And now there's a ton of people in my apartment who can hear it.
Wait, he's literally raising his voice?
He's screaming at me. It started stern, but then it got into telling me that he owns me. And
in those words?
Yes. It was just, it was venomous. And
was this the first time he had yelled at you?
In that way, yes, where it had come out where I saw a different person that I had heard rumors about. Because whatever he has and whatever he's going through, I just think he was bullied at some point in his life, and he has become the bully, and he doesn't realize it.
Brian Callen, who at the time was facing sexual assault allegations, was brought in to replace Dave Landau as Crowder's new co-host, but he left the role after enduring multiple humiliating experiences just like this.
Give me that milk. Oh, won't you give me that milk. Won't you cut?
Officially, he claimed to have left due to geography.
I haven't done the show in a long time.
Oh, okay.
Because, they're in Dallas.
Right.
So they do their thing over there, and I'm here.
But the most significant departure from Crowder's team wasn't Callen or Landau. It was his longtime co-host, Jared Monroe, better known to fans as Not Gay Jared. Jared worked with Crowder for 4 years, until he suddenly disappeared from the show. Years later, he finally broke his silence with this tweet.
Enough is enough. This can't go on any longer. I'm currently being legally abused and intimidated into silence by a former employer. This kind of harassment at the hands of the powerful isn't just designed to financially ruin somebody, it's designed to cripple their soul. I can no longer put myself or my growing family through the toxic and abusive work environment I had endured for years. This place was and is to this day a workplace rife with sexual misconduct, degeneracy, and aggression. The things I saw, the things done to me, and the things I witnessed my employer do to others were disgusting, shocking, and utterly indefensible. I have the receipts. This all took a serious toll on my personal health. I had to be admitted into a heart hospital. This condition was something new to me. I had no history of it prior to my employment there and have never been treated for it since. The primary reason I signed the NDA was for a small carve-out in the non-compete clause, which allowed me to freely seek employment using some of my skill sets at another specific company. At least I could feed my family. That provision, however, was a lie. And upon starting my new job at the new said company, I was giving another one of these, a cease and desist, and was promptly unlawfully terminated from that position.
Jared was able to get supporters to rally around him, raising just under $100,000 for his legal battle against Crowder. Jared won his legal battle as the first case was thrown out and Crowder was ordered to pay $58,000 in legal fees. And eventually he was able to secure total legal victory against Crowder. Despite Jared's victory, the controversy around Crowder was far from over. Candace Owens posted a reply tweet that read, "Wait till they find out about what he's been doing to his wife. This really is going to be a year of revelations." Candace's cryptic hint at Crowder's behavior was illustrated in a leaked video showing Crowder berating his then pregnant wife.
Because if you refuse to do wifely things, then I will go pick up the groceries. No, you're not taking the car.
Steven,
you're not taking the car.
Steven,
you are not.
Then I will ask them to pick me up. Would you like me to ask?
Oh, that's right.
It's not a threat, Steven.
Get an Uber.
Okay, Steven, I can't.
Feeling some constraints? Hillary, just think of how boxed in you've made me.
What do you need me to pick up? I'll get it. I'll be back when I'm back.
No, that doesn't work either. You'll be back when you're back. That doesn't work either. The only way out of this is discipline and respect.
I love you, but Steven, your beast is sick. Your beast
Watch it.
is sick.
Watch it. Fucking watch it.
I'm gonna let go. I'll get what you need me to get. And I need some space, okay? I love you. I love you very much.
I don't love you. That's the big problem.
I'm not going to get you anymore. I'm going to go. I'll text me what you need. I'll get you what you need.
Put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to do those things?
I'm not going to.
Are you committed enough to do those things? You're not committed to anything. You're not committed to anything. You just said I love you. I'm committed to it. Walk the dogs. Put on some gloves.
I need to.
Walk the dogs. Put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to do those things? Are you committed enough to do those things? Are you committed enough to do those things?
I'm gonna just
walk the dogs. Put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to get the medication the dogs? No, you take Betty.
A few days before the video leaked, Crowder publicly announced the couple's ongoing divorce, where the proceedings exhibited more of Crowder's toxic behavior. According to a New York Post article, Crowder's wife testified that he has rage issues and punches holes in the wall. But Crowder's situation will only get worse, as he was then hit with a libel lawsuit that alleged Louder with Crowder wrongly identified a man as a mass shooter. The lawsuit culminated in a humiliating sworn deposition.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
If you're going to use on May 8th an image, you're going to show your audience an image of who is purportedly the mass murderer. Is that something you're going to see before you go air? Or is this like a Ron Burgundy situation where you're seeing it for the first time?
Appreciate the reference to Ron Burgundy.
Shooter was a 33-year-old Hispanic male. His name was Mauricio Garcia. You won't find his face in, here you go, NBC, Wall Street Journal, CNN, CBS, Washington Post. They want to tell you that he was a white supremacist, yes, and not see his very Hispanic-looking face.
You said that my client has a very Hispanic-looking face? What does that mean?
It means exactly what I said.
When it comes to the decision to show this photo, you believe you did anything wrong to our client, Mauricio Garcia, who had nothing to do with this?
I do believe that reporting on the image, which was incorrect, was wrong. Yeah, that was a mistake.
I guess the hang up is you have a shooter who's tattooed up with a swastika and SS lightning bolts, but you're hesitant to call that a neo-Nazi mass shooting.
Correct.
Okay.
Shortly following this deposition, the lawsuit was settled, but while the legal proceedings ended there, the court of public opinion was still open, and the comment section beneath the deposition video flooded with mockery and hate directed towards Crowder. The so-called Joe Rogan effect, where guests blow up after appearing on the show, didn't exactly work out for Crowder. If anything, his appearance on the podcast marked the beginning of a very public downward spiral, and the Joe Rogan effect backfired even harder for our next guest. Douglas Murray, a journalist and political commentator, appeared on GRE episode 2303 to debate a libertarian comedian, Dave Smith, on the Israel-Palestine conflict. The podcast started out tense, with Murray immediately trying to lecture Joe for not platforming enough pro-Israeli guests.
It'd be fascinating to see your perspectives on these things, so that's why you're here together.
Okay.
And
Well,
Douglas,
can I ask you something?
Yes, sir.
Since the war in Israel began, and since the war in Ukraine began, you've had quite a lot of people who are very against both in different ways.
Yes.
Do you think you've had enough people on who are supportive of either war?
I don't know that word enough, if that's a good word.
Let's say enough people who are on the side of Israel instead of wild critics of Israel.
Well, I've had a few. I mean, I believe God Sad is on the side of Israel.
This passive-aggressive lecturing was not a good strategy to put Joe or his audience on Murray's side. It set a combative tone early on, putting Joe on the defensive, and one Reddit user noted, "Can't think of anyone who has ever come on trying to put Joe on the back foot like that." Another added, "Only 15 minutes in, but I don't think Douglas will be on again after this." As the debate unfolded, Murray positioned himself as an expert, and repeatedly relied on appeals to authority and credentialism to reinforce his views.
There's been a tilt in the conversation, and it's largely to do with people who have appointed themselves experts who are not experts. I'm still slightly bemused about this move from I'm an expert on this and I have views to I'm a comedian.
I've never claimed to be an expert on anything.
This is the problem, Joe. I mean, if somebody
Wait a minute,
says
you have to claim to be an expert on something to have an opinion on something?
No, you don't have to be. You don't have to be. But
So what's
this is
the
like
issue?
I'm not a historian, but I'm pumping out history.
But wait a minute,
I'm
what
not
about
an expert,
just-
but I'm talking all the time about
But
this
you're not
thing.
even talking about specifically on what he just said.
No, I'm saying this is my point about this. You say I'm not an expert.
So what's the solution? To not talk about it?
No, it's to have more experts around.
Well, the expert
To
class
hear-
hasn't done a great job,
I know,
man. This is follow the science.
absolutely,
Yeah, but you know what?
absolutely, I
Okay,
agree
so fine.
with
So
that.
during,
I just said
okay,
to you,
so,
I agree
right,
with that.
Right, I know.
But
So
one
Douglas,
of the problems
during
is,
all of COVID,
fire away.
I will put my track record against any of the expert class on COVID. I'm glad to do that. So should I have just shut up? Should I have shut up by opposing lockdowns and opposing
No.
vaccine mandates
No.
and
Well,
talking
that
about
was
the
the
lab leak
argument at the
theory?
time. You realize
that's
that,
the
right?
entire argument that you're making.
It's a bit weird to be simultaneously saying I'm not an expert on a conflict and talking about it everywhere.
I don't think so. Not really. I mean, I don't know. I don't think like
I don't know.
you. I don't see how you
Do
can't
you
have an
talk
opinion
about
on
these things?
Which things?
All these things that we're talking about.
Some of them, yeah.
Are you an expert?
I am on some, yes.
On some,
But
but
you talk
not.
about some that
But
you're not
some
an
are
expert
not.
on.
You'll notice
Right, so
that I
what should you
didn't
do?
just. You'll
What
note-
should you do if those subjects get breached?
Well, I think that you educate yourself as much as you
Shouldn't
can.
you say I'm not an expert and then give your opinion if you're
depends.
in the middle of a conversation?
I think it's, as I say, I think that it's a weird move to say, I'm not an expert on this, but I'm going to talk about it nonstop. I think that is strange.
Listen, I will certainly concede that I am weird, but I just like fundamentally disagree with this idea that, which I really do think is quite anti-democratic in spirit and quite, elitist, that there's an expert class. They can have opinions on all of these things. It's weird for any regular person who's just read about it.
Not my view. Not my view.
Seems like what you're saying.
This argument kept looping throughout the debate, and in a later podcast, Joe exposed Murray's hypocrisy on this point.
And this idea that expert, like Douglas Murray, I love him dearly. I think he's a brilliant man. He's got a degree in history, or he's got a degree in English, bachelor's degree. Okay, he's not an expert either. Unless we're talking about Shakespeare, shut the fuck up, because you're not an expert either. You know what I mean?
The most infamous part of the debate was Murray's credentialism taken to its extreme, arguing that you can't discuss the Israel-Palestine conflict unless you've physically been there.
Have you been to the crossing points?
No.
When were you last there at all?
I've never been.
You've never been?
Well, am I not allowed to talk about it now? Have you ever been to Nazi Germany? Are you allowed to have feelings about them?
You can't time travel, but you can. But you can travel.
Okay, but so what? So what's the point? Like,
no,
okay.
I find that
lots of people have been there and agree with me, and lots of people have been there and agree with you.
Yeah, but
so
if you're going to spend a year and a half talking about a place, you should at least do the courtesy of visiting it.
All right. I just think this is a non-argument.
You don't
but
think?
Okay. No, I think it's a non-argument.
But if you're an expert,
well, you have to go and touch the ground.
No, I think you have to see. I think it's a good idea to see stuff, particularly if you spend a career talking about something. Yes, I have a journalistic rule of trying never to talk about a country even in passing unless I've at least been there. You've never seen any of this going on.
So you're not allowed to speak about things that you've read about. You can only speak about things that you've seen with your own eyes.
You can talk about what you want, as you're proving. But that is a different matter from spending an awfully long amount of time talking about an issue in a region you haven't even had the courtesy to visit, whilst developing all of these views about it. Well, as I say, you can't time travel back to the Nazi era.
Let's go back to the blockade.
Go to the Middle East and actually visit it.
Okay,
it's
the
not
World Bank said in 1996 for the 1
now
year
the
of the blockade.
libertarians are quoting the World Bank. I love it.
It doesn't mean anything. This is a non-argument. Yes, I'm saying the World Bank did their own analysis of this, and they said that it was a 40%
do your own analysis?
Hold on, you got to stop interrupting and let him finish the sentence.
The World Bank said that 40% drop in the GDP of 1 year due to the blockade, and there's been a blockade from 2007 on. So are you saying that this hasn't had an economic effect? Is that the argument?
No, of course it'll have an economic effect.
So you're saying you have to be on the ground and do an audit of the blockade in order to be able to comment on it?
I think you should at least know what it is, what the territory is, what the situation is in the region. Yes, absolutely.
And the only way to do that is to be there in person.
I think that's the best way. It's not the only way, but it's the best way, for sure. For sure.
I don't know. Either take on the arguments or don't. But I don't.
But your argument's incorrect.
Oh, okay, fine. Well, then present a counter argument to it. But to just tell me I'm not allowed to talk about something because I'm not an expert.
I'm not saying you're not allowed to talk about it.
Okay, fine. Well, you're not an expert, so you shouldn't talk about it. You
now.
haven't been there. Yeah, I know. But you keep playing this game where it's like the whole opening to this podcast was like the non-experts talking about this is such a problem. Now you're saying because I haven't been there, I can't talk about it. Is there a blockade there that's causing economic devastation or not? According to the World Bank, there is.
First of all, I don't think it's a game. I don't think it's a game at all.
Me neither.
I'm not playing a game.
Okay, but this is semantics.
No, but this is important. I do believe that one of the things you should do if you're talking about something is to see it.
Yeah, you've established that. Is there a blockade?
The blockade that existed, to the extent it existed, was a blockade to try to make sure that the Israelis and the Egyptians knew what materials were going in and out of Gaza.
This argument was quickly memed and later spawned mockery from Joe and Tim Dillon on a subsequent podcast.
But wait a minute.
I wouldn't
Wait
make
a minute
it.
before you say that. Have you been there?
Right, that's a good point.
You haven't been?
By the way, how is he in all these wars? Can I just go to wars? By the way, how are you allowed? Are you allowed to just go to wars? Is that the way?
You should at least
can you just
have the
go
courtesy of going there.
Can I just go to wars, or do I have to come back and say what people want me to say about the wars? Can I go to the wars and have my own opinions, or do I have to have the opinions?
Not if you want to go back.
That's right.
One commenter perfectly captured the absurdity of Murray's argument, saying, "I want to give my opinion on this debate, but I have never been to Joe's studio. Murray doubled down on his losing arguments in an op-ed published a week after the podcast, but it seemed to have flopped spectacularly, with readers roasting Murray in his own comment section, with the top comment saying Douglas Murray prefers standards to free speech because he doesn't want to defend his opinions against people that completely disagree with them. Dave Smith didn't back down for a moment on Rogan's podcast and scored many points at Murray's expense. Dave Smith responded with a methodical takedown of the op-ed in a subsequent video.
What Douglas is very clearly saying here, no one's having trouble grasping it. You're saying, hey, you don't have to go to the region to talk about it, but if you're going to spend your life doing it, like if you're going to professionally talk about it, then you should go to the region. Okay. How about spending your entire professional life advocating for every goddamn war and serving in none? What about that? So you can't professionally, or you shouldn't professionally talk about a place if you've never been there, but you can professionally advocate for wars and never serve in any of them. And you can professionally advocate for wars, each one being a disaster, and still continue advocating for the wars without serving in any of them. You know, Douglas Murray advocated for the war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, the war in Syria, the war in Ukraine. Every one of them an unmitigated disaster. But it doesn't cost him anything. I mean, the only thing it seems to cost him is that he humiliated himself on the Joe Rogan Experience. But aside from that, not much. He's gotten rich advocating for wars that he's unwilling to fight in. And yet he's going to call me out for being against the wars without visiting the area, even though he's allowed to be for wars in areas that he hasn't visited. Yeah, Douglas, no one's not grasping your point. The problem is that it's garbage. It's a horrible, horrible point.
Smith landed the final blow on Murray when appearing on Tucker Carlson's show.
Dave, I'm really glad to see you. I know you've been here before, but it's nice to have you back.
I am an expert in all things Tucker Carlson.
As someone who's always liked Douglas and known him for a while, my first instinct was, wow, he just destroyed his career. Like, he's done. No smart person will ever take Douglas seriously again. And I don't know if he felt that way, but it was clear by a day or two after he realized he destroyed his career. And in response, rather than admitting that and admitting what he'd done wrong, he attacked you, really kind of doubled down in the New York Post. I want to read this. And I'm quoting, claiming some Jewish ancestry, Smith has spent the last 18 months since October 7th being very unfunny. Indeed. Claiming some Jewish ancestry. Now, I'm not really sure. Well, I'm just going to, I don't know why that just, Well, so what, do you claim some Jewish ancestry?
My mom and dad are probably the big ones. I do claim some Jewish ancestry.
And Joe gave his views on the aftermath of the debate on a subsequent podcast.
This appeal to experts, just because you have a degree, you're not always right. You're wrong all the time.
Yeah, that was pretty disappointing because I thought Douglas Murray, I liked listening to him. I thought he was super smart, obviously very articulate.
He sounds so good with that accent.
But then on that one, I think I told you, it was like, or I texted you something about, man, he seemed pompous. It's like, that seemed like, took a big, for me, it was a loss for him, big time.
Well, he used tactics rather than facts. So the tactic was an appeal to experts like that, and there was also saying that the coverage was imbalanced because I didn't have enough people that were pro-Israel. But then I thought about it afterwards. I'm like, I had quite a few. There was Jordan, Ben Shapiro, there was Coleman Hughes. There's been quite a few people that are pro-Israel. Not even that people are anti-Israel. They just don't want to watch people get blown apart all the time.
Right.
That seems pretty reasonable. But instead of debating how this is done and what is being done militarily, it all became about like, who are the experts and what are the things that should be discussed and should it be balanced and do you have an obligation? Like, that's not what we're here for. What we're here for is to get down to business. So what he's doing is like putting you on the defensive right away, out of the gate.
Yeah.
Which is like, I recognized it. I'm like, okay, if you really want to do that kind of a debate, if you really want to use those kind of tactics rather than a discussion of the issue, like you've never been, like that kind of stuff diminishes you publicly because everybody knows what you're doing. Because if you understand conversations, you understand this is not, you're not really engaging with the ideas. You're deciding whether or not a person should have these ideas or be able to, you've never been there. Like, you can't. How can you have an opinion? At least you should do the courtesy. Like, now I'm virtuous. I have been.
Right.
I'm elevated. I'm better than you. You are diminished. You haven't even been there.
Yeah.
Your opinion is basically meaningless.
Yeah.
And then it gets to this weird place where it's like, who's allowed to talk about what?
Despite these politically divisive topics, Murray seemingly lost the debate, at least according to Joe and the Joe Rogan audience, with commenters overwhelmingly siding with Dave Smith. But Murray wasn't the only guest who thought he could school Joe and his audience. Adam Conover, the host of the TV show Adam Ruins Everything, took a similarly condescending and lecturing approach. Conover had built his entire career around being a professional skeptic, debunking myths and correcting people's misconceptions with a smug confidence.
Actually.
But when he tried to bring that same energy to the Joe Rogan Experience, it backfired massively. The first topic they clashed over was whether alpha and beta males actually exist. Conover confidently declared the entire concept is unscientific nonsense.
The idea of the alpha male doesn't exist in humans. Like, if you talk to any anthropologist, any biologist, any sociologist, right, and be like, are humans organized in a social relationship where there's alphas and betas? They'll be like, no, what are you talking about? This is an unscientific idea, right? And we just did something laying that out in the context of like people who are, oh, my type is I like alphas, right? Well, there's no such thing, actually. Humans are you're dominant in some situations, not in others.
But Joe pushed back.
But if you ask girls, like, what are you into? And you say, are you into tall, muscular, confident men who are also nice to you? Jesus Christ, it's going to be off the charts. It's going to be like most of them.
I'm really not sure that's the case.
Really? That doesn't make sense to you, that women would be attracted to someone who's fit?
Look, I mean, it's a hypothetical, right? Like, certainly athleticism, right, is something that is attractive, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's something that many people find attractive, right? Not everybody finds that attractive. And I don't think that we can necessarily reason backwards to a specific evolutionary relationship, right? Because the truth of what those evolutionary relationships are is like often a lot more complicated than, our immediate intuition about it.
The next topic is what really got viewers heated. Adam, known for being a pro-trans activist, argued in favor of giving hormones to children as young as 7.
You're seeing folks transition much earlier age,
Well,
and so if someone is transitioning from the age of 7 years old, right, and working with those hormones, from that age, right, they're not going to have, their body situation is going to be very different than the one that you postulated.
But Joe wasn't having it.
There's no reason to give kids hormones, and there's no reason to decide before a person's frontal lobe is completely fully developed, which doesn't even take place till like 25. People don't know who they are. A 7-year-old, people don't even give their 7-year-old phones. You don't let them vote. You're going to let them decide what sex they're going to be for the rest of their life?
Adam's argument seemed to fall apart in the face of Joe's simple questions.
Why do you have to give them hormones to make them more of a girl?
Because I'm sorry, can you expand on the question?
It's a simple question. If you say that the child thinks it's a girl, so you're going to give the child hormones.
Mm-hmm.
If the child thinks it's a girl, let it be a girl. Like, you don't have, why are you adding hormones? If you're shooting hormones into a child and you're affecting the child's development, you're saying that's not a choice. That's nonsense. Of course it's a choice. You're choosing to chemically change this child's body. You're choosing to inject things into this child's body on a regular basis that are going to radically affect the physical development of their body.
Yeah.
And you're saying that this isn't a choice. Well, it's definitely a choice to do that.
Adam even went on to argue that sports are just a social construct designed by men, and that is the reason why men have an advantage.
So many of the sports were designed for male bodies, right? They're optimized for male bodies.
But even with the slightest pushback from Joe, Adam's argument quickly crumbled into absurdity.
Basketball, for example, right? How
is that optimized for male bodies?
It's like the height of the basket, the way that the ball moves around, the way
the ball moves around.
If we're gonna say that,
Joe went on to dismantle Adam's argument even further.
Most of the games that we've constructed are actually sort of biased towards a male type of body, right?
That sounds ridiculous. First of all, the reason why gymnastics is why women are good at gymnastics, first of all, their flexibility, their lightness, all those things. Also, they're not competing against men in a one-on-one type of situation. Like one's trying to defend, the other one's trying to attack, like a game of basketball or a game of football.
The conversation then got even worse, with the final nail in the coffin for Adam being the topic of trans athletes in sports. Adam essentially argued for an inclusive approach, and while the intention may have been noble, it ultimately meant defending the idea that trans women should be allowed to compete in women's sports. However, Adam completely ignored the very real physical differences between men and women and how these create an uneven playing field, as Joe explained.
Males are faster and stronger. There's a reason why there's a male and a female division. It's not that these sports were designed for males, it's that men are physically bigger and stronger and faster. These are physiological advantages. Now, you can have a thing like a gymnastics balance beam event where women are going to shine because they're lighter and more flexible and they can do things with their body that men can't because of the shape of them, all the mass, all the different things. But that's rare. That's the outlier.
A perfect example of this situation is Fallon Fox, a trans MMA fighter who fractured the skull of a biological female opponent during a bout, leaving her with a concussion. This controversy became a defining moment for Joe, who'd been heavily criticized for his stance, but he remained strident in his position, as he discussed in other podcasts.
The reaction that people have to this and how strongly they're committed to this when there was a transgender fighter that was hiding the fact, was hiding the fact that they were biologically male and competed twice as a woman, beating the fuck out of these women. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, you can't, and trying to say that it was just a medical procedure. And when I thought rightly got angry at it, I saw all these articles written, all these pieces about how transphobic my position was and what a horrible person I was. Like, we're literally talking about someone not telling someone. I said that, look, if you are a transgender athlete and you tell someone, hey, I was biologically male, but now identify as a female, would you like to fight? And that person still says yes, all in. Go ahead, have fun. You put Brock Lesnar, chop his dick off and put him in a dress. That guy's gonna maul through the women's heavyweight division like nothing you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
Because we're built different, and it's just a fact. And anyone who tries to argue that is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I was watching it. It was like watching a man fight a woman. That's what I was watching. I was like, this isn't like particularly. She wasn't particularly skillful. It wasn't like she had like some unbelievable background in judo, like Ronda Rousey or something like that. It wasn't that. You were just literally watching a former man beat up women who never had the benefit of 30 years plus of testosterone in their body.
Adam was thoroughly exposed as someone who has strong opinions but unable to back them up, with his arguments breaking down under basic scrutiny from Joe. Almost the entire comment section is dunking on Conover, with one capturing what viewers were thinking: this dude is a walking, talking BuzzFeed article. And throughout it all, Adam's constant verbal tics became impossible to ignore and grated on the audience. One commenter joked, "Take a shot every time Adam says right, see you in the afterlife."
Right, 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 right,
really?
You know, right, right.
Unable to handle the backlash from his Rogan appearance, Adam had to find an echo chamber to make him feel smart again. Months later, Adam appeared on Hassan Piker's livestream, a popular leftist platform, to give his side of the story, and it was pure damage control.
You know, having a conversation with Joe Rogan, specifically around the trans stuff and the backlash that you received as a consequence of that.
He sprung that topic of conversation on me. It was not something that, like, I think I should be the representative of to talk about. Because I was there, I was like, all right, I mean, I'll go to bat for what I think is right here as best I can. But, you know, when the dude is like locked and loaded with, like, you know, Jamie pull that up shit of whatever pseudoscience he wants to bring up, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't the best position to be in. He turned it immediately into a boxing match, and I wanted to have a conversation. So all the backlash was like, oh, Rogan owned you. He won a debate against you. I was like, I thought I was having a conversation. Like, yeah. I thought I went on to just like talk about my show and like spitball shit because we're fucking comics, and he turned it into a fist fight, which
That's what I don't like about it.
What was the feedback? Like, you got a lot of backlash, right?
His fans came after me for a couple months after this.
Yeah.
It was, again, a conversation that I did not go in intending to have. But it was just like beta cuck, just like, you know, the very basic stuff. No one's actually like advancing an argument of any kind. No one actually cares about the issue at all, and I'll point out, like, I say to him multiple times, hey, you should talk to like an expert about this. You should talk to like somebody who knows what they're talking about. Like, I'm not sure why we're having this conversation, but it's because, he felt like using me as a punching bag in that moment,
Rather than learning from the experience, he doubled down on the exact arguments that got him destroyed.
Sports are fucking social constructions. We made them up, and so we invented Yes, there are differences between male and female biological, born, whatever, assigned at birth male, assigned at birth female bodies. We designed sports such that the most popular ones are like designed for a male body. What if we didn't do that?
Since the podcast, things haven't gone much better for Adam. In 2022, he released a show titled The G Word with Adam Conover on Netflix, which is basically Obama-produced propaganda trying to justify ever-expanding government bureaucracy. It flopped hard, with 57% on Rotten Tomatoes, and Netflix quietly buried it after one season. Then Adam took a sponsorship from Sam Altman's dystopian world coin crypto that pays people to scan their eyeballs. For a guy who built his entire career as a professional skeptic, shilling for a dubious crypto project was the ultimate hypocrisy. Adam then released his own version of a YouTube apology video.
I am fucking embarrassed. I'm humiliated, to be quite honest.
It seemed Adam truly did ruin everything, including his own reputation. If you thought Adam Conover was bad, just wait. Bono's appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience stands as one of the most disliked episodes in the podcast's history, getting completely ratioed with over 23,000 dislikes. Known for being outspoken on political and economic issues, Bono used his time on JRE as yet another opportunity to play the role of a wealthy celebrity lecturing the public on their moral duty to help the poor. The main source of controversy came when Bono launched into a passionate defense of US aid funding. He argues that cuts to foreign aid were responsible for thousands of deaths, while Joe pushed back with measured skepticism.
It's not proven, but the surveillance enough suggests 300,000 people have already died from just this cut off, this hard cut of USAID. There is, I think it's 50,000 tons of food that are stored in Djibouti, South Africa, Dubai, and wait for it, Houston, Texas. And that is rotting rather than going to Gaza, rather than going to Sudan, because the people who know the codes or for the warehouse are fired. They're gone. What do you think? What is that? That's not America, is it?
Well, they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
This is the problem. For sure, there have been a lot of organizations that do tremendous good all throughout the world. Also, for sure, it was a money laundering operation. For sure, there was no oversight. For sure, billions of dollars are missing. In fact, trillions that are unaccounted for, that were sent off into various... They don't even know where because there's no receipts.
But the real backlash stemmed from the glaring hypocrisy. While preaching about taxpayer responsibility to fund global charity, Bono has famously structured his financial affairs to avoid paying taxes. So while arguing for taxpayer-funded charity like USAID, he simultaneously does everything he can to avoid paying those very taxes. And he didn't stop there. Bono shifted into a broader lecture about America's role in the world, a message that came off less as admiration and more like sanctimonious preaching.
Americans, no matter what political color, you see them just, the size, they just grow in stature when they know they're being useful. We really, really, really need you. The world, we need America. And sometimes it takes putting your money where your mouth is to show what freedom is. America did that. We owe America. And we need you. That's all I want to say. We need you, and together, wow, it's just part of the blessing of America. It's this, okay, so it's less than 1%. It's half of 1% of the government budget to keep all these people alive all over the world. They love America. Because they love America, they're not going to be a problem for America. They don't love it. It takes them away from terrorism, takes them away from anti-Americanism.
The JRE audience wasn't buying Bono's spiel. One top comment summed it up perfectly. Bono saving the environment one private jet flight at a time. Another comment nailed his inflated sense of self-importance. Bono is one of the world's most important human beings. And if you don't believe me, you can ask him yourself. Bono's hypocrisy even extends to when he attempts charity directly. His organization, One, took nearly $15 million in donations from philanthropists, but only distributed a measly $184,732 to actual charity. That's barely 1%. Meanwhile, over $8 million went to executive and employee salaries. And if the irony wasn't thick enough already, Bono delivered the entire podcast while literally wearing rose-tinted glasses. The visual metaphor couldn't have been more perfect. The whole performance felt like a South Park episode come to life. In fact, South Park did an episode portraying Bono as literally the world's biggest piece of crap. The episode mocked his ego, savior complex, and obsession with being number one. The similarities between Bono's South Park incarnation and his appearance on JRE were uncanny. The same pompous tone, condescending moralism, and total lack of self-awareness that the South Park episode nailed years earlier. Bono seemed to live up to his reputation perfectly. While he still has his defenders among YouTube fans who praise his willingness to engage with different viewpoints, it's safe to say Bono didn't win over the JRE audience. But if you thought Bono's appearance was tone deaf, wait until you hear about Kash Patel, the new FBI director who lost an entire audience in real time. Joe Rogan has covered the Jeffrey Epstein case on multiple podcasts before. In fact, Joe himself had previously been skeptical of the official narrative.
Why do you have dirt on everybody?
It's just
what exactly is going on here?
The craziest thing that they murdered that guy in jail, and it's just like sweep, sweep.
Yeah.
That's all done.
And by the way,
let's concentrate on Ukraine now.
Yeah, nobody actually believes he killed himself. I haven't met anybody left wing, right wing, center, apolitical. Everybody's like, that's kind of sketchy.
Yeah, I've met some people that believe it, but they have a reason to believe it. It's like they have this like vested interest in wanting to believe it.
Yeah,
It's
the skeptics. Yeah,
not even necessarily skeptics. It's like maybe they have some weird connection to it that they don't want you to know about. They want to make it look like it's not that big a deal, and they got them. One of the most eerie ones was when Bill Gates was being questioned about it.
He's dead now.
He's dead now, so you have to be careful.
You had a number of meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, who, when you met him 10 years ago, he was convicted of soliciting prostitution from minors.
Well, he's dead, so, in general, you always have to be careful.
What the fuck does that mean? Jesus Christ. He's dead now, so I guess you have to be careful. Like, what?
So when the new FBI director agreed to come on the show, Joe and his audience were eagerly waiting for answers about what really happened. And for good reason. Before becoming FBI director, Patel had been one of the loudest voices questioning the official narrative of the Epstein case.
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list. You don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list? What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list? You're going to accept Dick Durbin's word, or whoever that guy is, as to who is on that list and who isn't, and that it can and can't be released? Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
Republicans could get Epstein's list out now? Like, how would that process work?
Simple. One subpoena to the FBI. Give me the list. Oh, you don't want to give me the list and you're going to break the law and commit contempt of Congress? We're going to take your money. We're going to take Chris Wray's private jet. And the second you take that money, you get Epstein's list.
Here's the problem, Cash, is that they shut down the Lolita Express. So how are these guys going to fly on a private jet anymore? It's really a quandary, my friend.
Even after becoming the director, he was still promising big revelations before going on the Joe Rogan podcast.
What we can do now is continue to put out the documents and the information that these people withheld from the American public. You're about to see a wave of transparency.
What do you mean?
Just give us about a week or two.
Patel had built his reputation promising to expose the truth. But when he sat down with Joe, he did a complete 180. Instead of delivering the promised wave of transparency, Patel defended the establishment line on Epstein.
What did you think before you got in office? Did you think that Epstein was murdered?
No.
No suspicion at all of it?
But I have a different background, right?
Right.
So I was a public defender back in the day. I used to spend a lot of time in jails, and I've known people that have committed suicide in these cells. And so the way, based on public information at the time, that he ended up, the pictures and him hanging himself, I was like, man, that guy killed himself. There's just no way that you could have run an op and had people go into that cell and not have any video of it and not have any people come out and say, hey, yeah, I saw that guy, he shouldn't have been there, the guard or this guy. There's just no access points into places like this.
If he was murdered in prison, crazy, right?
Yeah.
You could see why very powerful people wouldn't want
If he
him
was
talking.
murdered in segregated housing, in isolation, after being on suicide watch in a place in a detention center that I've physically been in myself, it would be fiction. It's just, in my experience, that is not doable.
It's not doable even for the most powerful and wealthiest people in the world?
Yeah. I've said it, Dan Bongino said it, we've reviewed all the information, and the American public is going to get as much as we can release. He killed himself. Do you think, let's play out the logical conclusion of this. Do you think that myself, Bongino, and others would participate in hiding information about Epstein's grotesque activities? Or do you think we would also participate in not prosecuting people we had evidence to prosecute people on? But the problem is there's been like 15 years of people coming in and creating fictions about this that doesn't exist. Where's the videotape of an Epstein Island of X, Y, and Z committing these frauds? Why haven't you given it to us? Do you really think I wouldn't give that to you if it existed? I'm working my ass off along with the leadership at the Bureau and DOJ to get you what we're allowed to give you. And you're going to get the video of the cell, and you're going to see for yourself. And we will never be able to convince everyone.
The comment section perfectly captured the audience's skepticism. They're just insulting our intelligence at this point. Do you think that we would participate? Yes, absolutely. So his only argument is, believe me, bro. Making matters worse, earlier in the same podcast, Patel revealed an ironic truth that made his entire argument even more questionable.
Going back to my public defender and prosecutor days, I mean, I represented some of the worst humans that you can possibly imagine on earth. Literally. The guys that were trafficking children from Mexico into America.
But then came the moment that made this podcast absolutely legendary. Right in the middle of defending the official Epstein narrative, a tweet drops live that completely contradicts his entire speech, and the timing literally couldn't have been more perfect.
Since we were talking about fake news, this is going to come up because it's been going on since we've been recording here. Elon and Trump seem to be in a bit of a spat. Joe, you want to check the tweet that Elon just put out a little bit ago?
Time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That's the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day. Jesus Christ.
I'm not participating in any of that conversation
What
between
is he?
Elon and
Have a
Trump.
nice day, DJD. Someone should take his phone away.
They're going back and forth about different things. And
yeah.
Well, he said he was disappointed in Elon.
Yeah, they told him to leave.
Jesus Christ, that's a crazy thing to say. How does he know? Does he know that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files? Or does he have access to the Epstein files?
I don't know how he would, but I'm just staying out of the Trump Elon thing. That's way outside my lane.
What the fuck are they doing?
I know my lane, and that ain't it.
Patel quickly scrambles to avoid the topic, but the damage was already done. But the audience didn't just turn on Patel, they turned on Joe too. Joe was heavily criticized for not grilling Kash enough, especially when that contradictory tweet dropped. As one Reddit comment perfectly put it, that's what happens when an unstoppable ass kiss of force meets an immovable spineless object. Even Tim Dillon, a Rogan regular and comedian, later commented on how ridiculous Kash Patel's appearance was.
If there was a video of some guy or gal committing felonies on an island and I'm in charge, don't you think you'd see it?
Pause. According to your own attorney general, there are 10,000 hours of videos of that your agency is reviewing. That's according to Pam Bond. That's according to the attorney general.
There are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child and there are hundreds of victims.
The Kash Patel interview was a masterclass in how to destroy credibility in real time. He went from transparency crusader to damage control specialist the moment it mattered. Patel got hate for a very serious issue, but our next guest managed to become one of the most hated simply by annoying the hell out of Joe. Neil deGrasse Tyson, world-renowned astrophysicist, has been on JRE 5 times, and each appearance gets more painful to watch. The most immediate thing you notice when watching any Tyson episode is that he simply cannot let Joe finish a sentence. He interrupts constantly, talks over him, and seems completely oblivious to basic conversational etiquette. At times, his behavior borders on downright rude, as if he's more interested in hearing himself talk than actually having a dialogue. You can actually see the frustration build in Joe as the podcast goes on.
What's interesting is that the town is...
Wait, have you seen Starry Night in Bacon?
A certain type of ideology. A certain type of person who thinks of themselves...
It doesn't matter to me. The discoveries of astrophysicists bring you closer to it.
I get your perspective. Let me be the opposing view. They feel...
No, I'm not trying to...
No, I know you're not.
This is just information.
Okay.
This is information, and I walk out of the room.
Problem, too, is I think it's
if you value mountain climbing...
So specifically, these things have to take place.
Europeans didn't come to Hawaii and find legions of scientists there conducting experiments.
I got very fortunate. It was a night where the moon was not out.
Yes. Moon is not the astronomer's favorite thing. But another way is you find a way to swap batteries.
Right, so they would have to have a mountain of batteries sitting there waiting for people to just come in and take.
Is that any worse than a mountain than a sunken reservoir tank of gas? That's no different. Why is that any different?
Probably be larger volume, right?
Possibly, but so what? If it's economic, you just do it.
Right.
And if the battery's all at the bottom of the car, and go like NASCAR, you run in, pop it up.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
Okay, so that is how I feel.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
But in Harry Potter, the what's that cloak that they wear? The invisibility cloak. When the glaciers melt, where does the water go? Where's it go? Just tell me. You know the answer. Just.
Into the ocean?
Back in the ocean. Okay. So who's paying for the energy? Where are you getting the energy from? It's an energy thing.
But I would think that would be very valuable. I mean, think about how many people buy
It's not
bottles of
valuable
water.
enough yet. That's the point.
Well, is it that...
It's pure... It's just money. Dude, it's just money.
I think...
Ratios of numbers are highly powerful probes of the structure and the form of things. Just so you know.
I think it was Camden, New Jersey, where they had such a crisis.
Wow, that was so random.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
because
okay.
we're talking about surveillance.
Oh, by the way, just to...
Seems like you're frustrated by all the various questions.
No,
it seems like
no.
You seem a little defensive there. Am I right?
No, 'cause,
do you think we'll ultimately understand gravity?
I think we do. That's why we can land things on Mars.
Well, we understand
I think we do, which is why your cell phone gets time from GPS satellites that is pre-corrected for Einstein's general theory of relativity because they're in a different gravitational field in orbit than you are on Earth's surface.
Dun, dun, dun.
We got this.
You're getting angry. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the podcast.
One comment poetically captures the problem. Roses are red, violets are blue. When Joe Rogan is talking, Neil deGrasse Tyson is too. But there were plenty of other comments roasting Tyson. The interrupting is just the tip of the iceberg. This moment exemplified Tyson's self-absorption, where Joe tries to show him Lex Fridman playing a guitar in a self-driving car, but Tyson shows complete indifference, as he goes back to hunting for a quote in his own book.
Then without it.
Have you seen Lex Fridman playing guitar while he's driving around a self-driving car? It's pretty fascinating.
So there's a headline here, and that I'm going to read. It's a very simple headline, but where is it here? T-E. Oh my gosh, where is it?
There it is. There's Lex.
Oh.
Oh yeah, he was playing along. Here
That's
it goes.
good. It's good
Listen
stuff.
to here.
Okay.
From MIT originally, now he's mostly doing independent work and doing his own podcast. And brilliant guy. You would love him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got an amazing podcast too.
Okay, so here it's going to be in this section.
I don't think you're interested in Lex's podcast. Seems like he's not paying attention.
What do you mean? No, hang on. I got this.
Lex,
no, thank you for the tip.
I'm trying to get him on, buddy.
I'm trying to get him in.
Lex actually is one of the most brilliant people I know. I think you would love talking to him.
An interesting quote here from Walter Bagehot. One of the greatest pains to human nature is the pain of a new idea.
Perfect example of Tyson's need to be right about everything is where he even questions the authenticity of the bricks in Joe's own studio.
I'm in a brick. Is this fake brick? That's fake brick. I'm in a
No,
build.
those are real bricks.
No, it's not. No.
Yes, it is. Go touch it.
I don't believe you.
Go ahead. Those are real bricks. Go touch the bricks, man. Jesus Christ, he thinks we got fake bricks. Who do you think we are?
Okay.
Oh.
You got it.
Thought I was a liar. How weird.
The tension between these two really came to a head during the exchange about whether aliens would be interested in studying humans. But Tyson's dismissive response clearly annoyed Joe.
Now think of the hubris of us saying this advanced civilization of aliens who can cross the gaps of space are interested in us and our gonads, and they want to paint circles in our crops. That's kind of weird, I would think.
Okay, I hate this argument.
I just think it's a little
Listen,
weird.
tell you,
I don't think we're that interesting.
I think we're really fucking interesting. I
To-
think
to
we
an
can
advanced-
nuke the entire planet many times over, and yet we don't. We did it once in 1947. We bullshit each other constantly. We spew out propaganda. We have this bizarre ritual where every 4 years we pick a leader based on a popularity contest.
Who you want to have beer with.
Yeah, we celebrate people who pretend to be heroes in films and television, and we barely know scientists who win Nobel Prizes. We're fucking fascinating. We're the weirdest
Fascinating
things.
to whom?
The weirdest things. Listen, if you studied us, if you were from another planet filled with things like us, like there was another planet of us, and we found a planet doing this exact same kind of nonsense that we do somewhere else, we would be riveted.
Joe later reflected on this interaction and on Tyson in general in a later podcast, and you can hear the genuine irritation in Joe's voice.
I don't know how you could not be fascinated. That's why, I had that argument with Neil deGrasse Tyson about it. Like, why would they care about us? I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? We go study slugs. We study spores and microbes. Why wouldn't they study territorial apes with thermonuclear weapons? Like, why wouldn't they study that? Of course they would.
He salivating over the fact?
He's an odd guy.
Okay.
I don't know what the fuck is going on in his mind. I really don't. He was mocking people for being interested in the eclipse. Yeah. And everybody was giving him shit online. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, you're literally the guy that's, telling everybody to look at the cosmos.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing?
It's an inconsistency that I've yet to understand.
Maybe he's troubled. Maybe he's not happy. I don't know. I mean, he generally has so much joy when it comes to science. It's like the inconsistency is confusing to me. And the idea that they wouldn't be interested in us is, to me, preposterous.
As if things weren't already tense, Tyson decided to jump into the transgender debate, a guaranteed lightning rod for controversy.
One of your functions over time has been to communicate scientific knowledge to the public.
Yeah.
And that's why I was quite surprised to hear you talk about the idea that we all exist on a spectrum where you wake up one day and you feel like you're more female and more male.
The XXXY chromosomes are insufficient because when we wake up in the morning, we exaggerate whatever feature we want to portray the gender of our choice. Why do you care? What business is it of yours to require that I fulfill your inability to think of gender on a spectrum?
Things got even more heated when comedian Jeff Dye and Joe called out Tyson on his stance.
I hate Neil deGrasse Tyson or Neil, whatever that guy's name is. I hate you. You suck. In my opinion, I think you're a bozo. If we're just looking at the meat and bones and cells and chromosomes of something, we can make biological arguments that there is a male and a female. And then his argument goes, why do you care? What do you mean, why do I care? I care. I want you to tell people facts about things scientifically, not just go, what does it matter? You go, well, when you go on about the cosmos, people don't go, why do you care? We care. like that's not a good scientific argument for things. And he's really jumped ship on science as a science guy.
Yeah, it's bizarre, but
Strange.
it's a mind virus. And it's a mind virus that demands compliance. You have to comply to this ridiculous new ideology. And a part of that, and this is where it really annoyed me about his argument, was that should apply somehow to sports. If you take a biological male of normal athletic ability competing against a biological female who is elite of elite, the biological male has massive advantages, especially in things like combat sports.
It's a shame because Tyson does have genuinely fascinating insights into science and the universe, but his constant interrupting, his ego, and his need to always be the smartest guy in the room completely overshadowed his strengths. And for many viewers, especially Rogan's audience, he became more of a cautionary tale than a crowd favorite. But if you think Tyson's arrogance was bad, wait until you meet our next guest, Terrence Howard, the actor who thinks he's revolutionized mathematics and physics. And ironically, Tyson was one of the scientists who debunked his claims. Terrence Howard's journey into pseudoscience didn't begin on GRE. It began publicly in 2019 on the Emmy red carpet of all places, when Howard made headlines by announcing his retirement from acting.
You said after you complete these 15 episodes of Empire, you got to walk away for a while or forever?
For good. I mean, everyone keeps trying to tell me don't say it's forever, but I've spent 37 years pretending to be people so that people can pretend to watch and enjoy what I'm doing. I'm putting something on YouTube where I will build the planet Saturn without gravity and build the Milky Way galaxy without gravity.
But that was just the beginning. Howard's unconventional theory, which he branded as teriology, gained further infamy when he presented his most infamous claim at Oxford University, that 1 × 1 = 2.
Math asks for the basic laws of physics to break down in order for 1 × 1 to equal 1. If I said to you, what's 1 × 1? What'd you say, 1? It equals 1? Anybody in here that thinks 1 × 1 = 1, then you give me 2 pounds and I'll give you a pound back. And we'll call that even, right? There's not an like if 1 × 1 = 2, we've got an equilibrium of balance. 1 × 1 = 1, you've got loss. When 1 × 1 = 3 or more, you're talking about over unity.
When Terrence Howard first appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience, he unleashed a torrent of extraordinary claims that made his previous outbursts look tame by comparison. But before diving into his wild theories, Howard explained where these ideas came from, and the origin story was almost as bizarre as the theories themselves.
When you're dreaming and you're falling, and you hit the bottom and you wake up, that was my first memory, but I didn't wake up here. I was inside my mother's womb. And then when I was about 5 years old, I had another dream, and the room filled up with like this fluid, a dark fluid, and there was a being there. He said to me, if you could have anything in the world, what would it be? But I said to him, I want to know how everything works. And at that moment, he used his left hand and he opened up the door. And there was this mansion, and inside of it was this crystalline flowers, big crystalline flowers, like a giant, like 5 feet across. And every time I tried to see his face, he would reach in and hand me another shape. And I was so fascinated with the shapes because they didn't look like the platonic solids. They didn't look like anything I'd ever seen before. I woke up from that dream. But after that moment, anytime something strange would happen in a dream, I had the powers of inception. And I had access to all the knowledge. The proof of it is the 97 patents that I have now.
These are things that you had in your mind from the time you were born.
From before that time, because I remembered that I had been someplace else before.
With that mystical foundation established, Howard proceeded to make myriad dubious claims that defied basic physics and mathematics, all derived from his pseudoscientific theory of teriology. For example, he makes the claim that gravity is not real, but simply an effect of electricity.
Gravity is supposed to be the greater the mass is the greater the attractor. You take a balloon, you rub it on your leg, you put it over the ground. Watch the dust particles jump off the ground, off this big mass called the Earth, and jump onto that balloon. Because why? Electricity is 137 times stronger than the pull of gravity or the effects of the so-called gravity.
Howard also makes the claim that planets are just excretions from stars.
Can you tell me how a planet is formed under this theory? So you have a sun. And how does the sun give birth to these planets?
The same way we defecate and have gas. Like Jupiter's, that red spot on Jupiter, that's spinning on it, that's going to become a moon.
He then claims that his knowledge can be used to destroy the world.
I was angry. I was really angry. And I was going to use all of the knowledge that I had, and I was going to destroy mankind. I was like,
oh my God, right out of Marvel.
I was like, yeah, I was about to, but then.
Well, I'm glad you didn't.
These are just a few of the claims that he made in the just over 3 hours long podcast. But Howard also talked about the alleged dark controversy that led him to abandon acting and directed him to pursue his theories. Howard's domestic violence allegations had been public knowledge for years, but on Rogan's podcast, he framed these controversies as a part of his scientific awakening.
They had an agenda.
Yeah.
Because remember, at the same time, they were calling me a wife beater and all of those things. That same woman that had painted in a black eye, she took those pictures herself, and she was blackmailing me for years. She destroyed my name. But like I said, I thought that was a death blow, but that's what took me back when I had nothing. That's what took me back to this, and that greater being started showing up again.
And according to Howard, the forces working against him extended beyond his personal life to the highest levels of power, and he believed the government was surveilling and actively working against him.
Man, don't turn my phone off. Don't do that. Every time I get ready, well, because I know they're watching me right now, and they're mad at me.
You think they fuck with your phone?
Oh, I'm sure of it, because now I have to turn it off for a second.
Do you ever drop your phone?
You
ever drop your phone?
I've dropped my phone a number of times, but...
You ever think that might be what's going on with your phone?
And then I buy another phone, and the same thing happens.
Coincidentally or not, later in the podcast, Jamie's computer also started glitching out whenever he tried to pull up Howard's models.
No, it's about to happen.
No, nothing's happening. My computer just froze again, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh,
Something freaked out my computer. I might have to just try to...
You want to reboot?
I mean, I think it already did, but I'll try again. Hold on. We have to pause.
Yeah. Okay, no worries. What's the matter?
What I can see on that screen is not what I can see on my computer screen. I can't even see that.
It's the fucking government, man.
You think it's not? Sure. No, this is going to be the short one.
Okay. My computer just reset itself too because all these files freaked it out.
Oh yeah.
The government, man.
I don't know. I was about to tell you.
It's Neil deGrasse Tyson. He knows where your computer is.
Video. It'll be the first one.
Is it the codec?
I have no control over the computer. Alt tab does nothing. Escape does nothing.
Yo.
Spacebar does nothing.
Maybe you dropped your computer.
Maybe you dropped your computer, Jamie.
I'm gonna try to.
Among the scientific community, Neil deGrasse Tyson stood out as one of the most vocal critics of Howard's claims, a reaction Howard went on to describe on the podcast.
I reached out to Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was like, hey man, yeah, I'd love for you to come on my show, do my radio, do my TV thing. I would love that. I was like, yeah, but I've got something I want to introduce to you. And it was only 36 pages. It was a treatise. But I started it off with 1 × 1 = 2. And he went in on my treatise, wrote, redlined everything. He attacked it with such vitriol that I was like, oh, okay, maybe I need to walk away from this. And he said, if you have any other questions, you're going to have to see somebody else. And he wouldn't take my calls anymore. I was like, okay. So I wrote the book based off of those responses.
Very interesting that would be his take as a public educator, that he wouldn't want to talk to you anymore.
The reason I wanted to talk to him was because of his show, The Cosmos, that he was doing after that incredible guy, Carl Sagan did.
However, Tyson's official video response provided a different account, where he diagnosed Howard with the Dunning-Kruger effect, essentially a polite way of calling him stupid without actually saying it, before calmly debunking Howard's treatise line by line.
I recently learned I got name-checked by Terrence Howard on his recent appearance on Joe Rogan. What can happen is, if you're a fan of a subject, let's say, a hobbyist, let's call it, it's possible to know enough about that subject to think you're right, but not enough about that subject to know that you're wrong. And it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's the phenomenon where a little bit of knowledge, you over-assess how much of that subject you actually know. And then when you learn even more, you realize, no, I didn't know as much as I thought I did. So then there's a sort of a lull there. And then when you learn even more, you come back up. Ultimately, learning enough to know whether you were right or wrong. I'm going to read you just my opening line here. It's titled 1 × 1 = 2. So I lead off by saying, this is an ambitious work that is a clear indication of a restless, active mind. Within these pages, however, there are many assumptions and statements that are underinformed, misinformed, or simply false, thereby compromising or nullifying many of the subsequent conclusions you have drawn.
In a highly anticipated second appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience, Terrence Howard was joined by Eric Weinstein, a mathematician with a PhD in mathematical physics from Harvard. Ironically, Weinstein has his own controversial geometric unity theory, making him somewhat of an outsider in traditional academia himself. Before Weinstein debunked Howard himself, he did defend Howard regarding Tyson's response.
This idea that Neil said about why doesn't he just submit to peer review? It's
I
the
did.
biggest bunch of shit I've ever heard.
We've
in my
got
life.
two.
I cannot believe how disingenuous this is. He calls you the worst insult in academics, which is there was a study called Dunning-Kruger
effect.
is both an effect that is studied and the ultimate insult. It's basically your mama.
Weinstein took a charitable approach, admitting he had been much more infuriated by the response to Howard's first podcast than the podcast itself. Weinstein wanted to steelman Howard's position, to present his ideas in their strongest possible form. But despite a more diplomatic approach, Weinstein still dismantled Howard's claims in the podcast.
What did I say that wasn't true though? That's what I'm. That's. I
well,
mean,
one
my
times
whole-
one is not equal to two. Let's start there. In fact, I'm angry at Joe because Joe should have pushed back on that.
When Weinstein presented Howard with the standard theory of everything equation, it became painfully obvious that Howard didn't even understand the current accepted theories that he was trying to overturn.
I think I understand this, and I'm able to talk to you about it. So this is my community and how it thinks of everything in the world. Do you have a way of relating what you think about in terms of what my community has wrong? Does this mean anything to you?
If you remove gravity outside of the equation, you take gravity out because gravity is affected. Gravity is actually covered by that strong electrical force.
Terrence, 1 second. This is not a gotcha, and it's
no,
not me.
I know. I'm not. I'm just saying.
Do you know how to read this?
As best as we're talking about, I as imaginary.
Yeah.
You know, d to the 4. I don't know what the d represents.
So that's the volume element saying that you're in 4-dimensional space and you're going to take an integral.
And y to a negative g, y to a negative gravity.
Yeah, that's the determinant of the space-time metric with which you might have an issue. Okay, so in other words, you're normalizing. You're saying that if the rulers look one way or the rulers look another way, according to Einstein, you have to put more weight or less weight on a region of space. Do you know what that R is? That's the foreplay, and then in the parentheses is where the stuff gets crazy.
Explain it.
That's what's called the scalar curvature.
Probably the funniest part of the podcast is Howard's response to Eric's feedback.
This thing that you created is based on an error.
What's the error?
The error is that the arc cosine of minus 1/3 is not equal to 3/5 pi.
Garlic makes my feet stink.
Okay.
That was perfect.
Okay.
Terrence with the timing today.
I'm sorry. It may be the whiskey.
It is the whiskey.
It's certainly
but
helping.
I'm not mad about it at all.
right.
No, it's hilarious.
Howard's most recent appearance on the PBD podcast is where he doubled down and made his most outrageous claim yet.
So after I'm done here today, I'm going to put online the equations necessary to have a thing called unlimited energy, to be able to pull energy directly from the flux, just to say fuck you to the world. I'm going to show them how to pull energy directly from the flux.
The audience reaction was pretty harsh. One comment saying, Terrence Howard has made the fatal celebrity mistake. He's confused being famous with being smarter than everyone else. There was a lot of hate directed towards Howard, but the JRE audience seemed more dumbfounded and entertained by the spectacle. But our final guest took things to an entirely different level of hatred and controversy. Josh Dubin is a prominent civil rights attorney and executive director for the Perlmutter Center for Legal Justice, helping incarcerated people prove their innocence through DNA testing. He has appeared on JRE many times, either by himself or with wrongfully convicted individuals, to share their stories of injustice, and these podcasts were broadly well received by the GRE audience. But it was on episode 2096 that Dubin decided to do something he's never done before.
I figured we'd do something a little bit different. Typically, the person sitting to my right is someone that was wrongfully convicted. So I don't want to bury the headline. Sheldon is guilty.
Sheldon had recently been released after serving 25 years or a 50-year sentence, and Dubin brought him in as an example of disproportionate sentencing in the justice system. The episode started out normally, with Johnson coming across as reformed and optimistic about his future.
That I started going to school, I did the correspondence courses. I got involved in the Cornell Prison Education Program. I obtained my associate's degree, and then I went on to obtain my bachelor's in behavioral science from Mercy. I started working in the law library. I discovered that I had a knack for complicated things, case law, and I was helping guys, and I was actually helping guys get out of prison. And I started running the programs, and it felt good. It felt good to be able to call my family and send them pictures and invite them to these events where they can actually see me change. They could see actual, tangible change.
However, despite the goal or positive message, the podcast took a foreboding turn.
The cycle of from the street to prison, back to the street to prison, most of the time it's churning out monsters. There's a great book called In the Belly of the Beast about a guy that went to prison, and he describes what it did to him psychologically, and then he goes out and he murders someone, and he writes this book just explaining, I want you to understand what this did to me. I read it when I was in college, and I should read it again. I probably have a different perspective on it now. It might hit home even more.
And when I got out, I made a decision that I was going to walk away, and I didn't care about what the consequences was. And I said to myself, I've been doing bad for so long, I'm going to try to do something good. If all else fails, I could always go back to doing bad.
Also breaking tonight, a man charged with murder and moments ago facing a judge accused of dismembering a body and then carrying some of the body parts back to his home.
He is the man alleged of committing a particularly heinous and evil crime. 48-year-old Sheldon Johnson, accused of killing a man and dismembering his body. But Johnson says they have the wrong man.
I'm innocent.
Instead of Johnson's legacy being an ex-con who turned his life around, it would be surveillance footage of Sheldon allegedly disposing of body parts. When the news of Johnson's arrest broke, Rogan gave his reaction and reflected back on the podcast.
A month after he was on the podcast?
Yeah.
How long was it after he was on the podcast?
Yeah.
2 months? Maybe 2 months? Cut some dude's head off. Homie didn't understand new HD security cameras. Like, this dude put a blonde wig on. They got crystal clear footage of him with his goatee on, wearing a blonde wig, carrying some dude's head.
How good was he at selling himself as this reformed person?
Well, you know, what does it mean? Okay, so he didn't kill anybody in jail. And then he's out now, and he's got this new lease on life, and he's out, and he's trying to do something different with his life. Well, should he have gotten 50 years for that? Well, I don't know. I mean, it seems like when he got out, he was kind of a bad guy.
Yeah,
but was that because he spent 25 fucking years in jail, which is an insane amount of time to be locked up in a prison and then expect to acclimate? And
so you're saying, did prison make him much worse?
Did prison make him much worse?
Dubin later returned to GRE to address the situation and reflect on what happened.
So I guess we just get right into it. The last case that we talked about, we had a very unfortunate incident happen after the podcast. About a month later, the gentleman beheaded somebody.
Allegedly, yes.
Allegedly. There's a lot of allegedly.
My first thought was, I had two thoughts, was that poor guy that got killed. And it was a gruesome murder. And my first thought was for him and his family. And then I think my second and third thought, maybe in tandem, was this tore down 50 years of work that a lot of people have fought really hard for and really need. And I felt like I let you down. Look, no one could have imagined what's in the dark recesses of that man's soul. Whether it's, his group home upbringing and abuse, the prison experience. It's not to make an excuse. He did it. If he did it. If he's convicted and he did it, that's on him. What I'm guilty of is giving a guy a second chance. And I'm why am I reluctant to say this? I can't apologize for giving someone a second chance and then, they squander it. All I can do is say, what could I have done better? I promise the next time I bring a guest on, they will be vetted.
Yeah.
The guests will be vetted a lot more thoroughly. And,
there's no way you could have known.
There's no way I could have known. And, it's interesting because for 48 hours, I felt what it was like. I felt what it was like to be a headline.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, this sucks. For the wrong reasons. Yeah. It was like...
well, I know you were in a dark place, but I'm glad you got out of it.
Yeah, and it's not about me.
It takes time.
Yeah.
Although Joe was very charitable towards Dubin, the comment section certainly was not. With comments like, besides the body parts in his freezer and multiple other crimes, Sheldon Johnson is a good dude. Judge said I was a menace to society. The judge was correct, lol. Imagine being locked up for being wronged by the system for over 25 years only to prove the system was right. Amazing. It seems a shame that Dubin's advocacy work has been overshadowed by the serious charges against Johnson, who maintains his innocence. From ego clashes and ideological meltdowns to awkward debates and full-blown controversies, these were some of the most hated guests to ever appear on the Joe Rogan Experience. But if you thought they were bad, wait until you see this next guest disaster appearance. Supercut down to just 5 brutal minutes.